Now, this one is really interesting. Piers Morgan and James Carville. Oh my God. So it's all coming back to me now, ladies and gentlemen, because remember when Biden was still in the race, James Carville did say, I don't know. I don't think this is going to be the person. I don't think that that's what the voters want. And then Kamala Harris became the candidate. When Kamala Harris became the candidate, James Carville said she is going to win. I have no doubt in my mind she's going to win. That's what he said, right? Now James Carville is eating his words, and he ate those words with Piers Morgan. So you know Piers Morgan really got a lot of thrill and joy out of this. Let's dive in here.
Gave that debate, and it became crystal clear to Americans who were watching in large numbers that all the rumor mill that had been dismissed largely by the mainstream media, that Biden was somehow cognitively impaired, he wasn't up for the job, etc., that all those rumors that had been roundly denied by the Democratic establishment actually were laid bare as being a cold, hard reality. Where were you when that debate happened, and what were you thinking as it took place?
I know exactly where I was. I was in Aspen, Colorado, with Tina Brown's Aspen Ideas group. And I went back to the Jerome Hotel, and I turned on the TV, and it was 3 minutes into the debate. I watched 3 minutes, I took 2 gummies, and I started listening to country music because I knew this thing was not going well at all.
No.
It was too painful to watch, but I can show you that to this day. I could walk back to the room I was in the hotel, and I texted the director of the documentary, and I told him, I'm taking 2 gummies and watching country music. This is too brutal for even me to watch.
Did you know in that moment, James, did you know in that moment that he was not going to be the candidate come the election?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us probably assume that, right? When he said gummies, I'm assuming that he's talking about edibles. He said, I took 2 gummies. I'm assuming, I don't know. But yeah, it's really interesting. I think during that debate, that was the moment that a lot of us just realized, like, well, some of us were saying it earlier on. We're like, yo, this dude is not the one. He's got to step aside. But that debate was an eye-opening moment for people who maybe weren't paying attention to politics just yet, and they weren't like focused on the presidential election. And then seeing that debate, they're just like, whoa, what happened to Joe Biden? Because a lot of times people tune out, right? Like people may pay attention as we get closer to like election season, but in between those times, people may tune out from politics for quite some time until presidential election comes back. So I think it was eye-opening for people who weren't in the know.
I mean, it was pretty evident. There's a new book coming out. Read it about what people do and when did they know it. I don't know. I called on President Biden not to run for election even earlier than May of 2023. I think he's one of the more consequential presidents we've ever had, frankly. And it was might have been the single most painful thing I've ever done in my life. I cannot wait to get in the morning and just kick the living crap out of Donald Trump. It just gives me joy, pleasure. It brings a smile to my face. I hate it every moment, but I just didn't think I had another choice, honestly. And so that's where I am. It's kind of weird, but Trump being elected, in some ways, kind of freed me.
I mean,
now let's talk about that for a second. This is funny. James Carville, the Cajun Skeletor. Thank you, Professor Black Truth. Everybody calls him Skeletor. This is the part that I want to chime in on. He said that Trump being elected kind of freed him. You know why he's saying that? Because he knew all along that they weren't going to win, but that wasn't his role. So when he was asked, like before the election, is Kamala Harris going to win? Of course, he's like, oh, yeah, I think she's going to win, because that's his role. That's what he's supposed to do. He's not supposed to get up there and say, no, I don't think she has a chance. No, it was a Democrat strategist. He worked with Bill Clinton. You think he's going to get up there and say she doesn't have a chance? No, not at all. And that would have been bad on him. And you wouldn't see him being like invited onto any of these more shows or whatever. So in other words, these people were paid to lie. They're paid to make you believe that they have momentum, that they have this energy around them, and that they're going to win, so that you feel inspired to come out. But sometimes that backfires, because sometimes if you kind of don't feel like it, and let's be honest, sometimes people don't feel like it. If you don't feel like going to the polls, standing in line for however long you have to wait, depending on where you live, then you might kind of hear on the news that's like, she has all this energy, this momentum, she's going to win. Oh, okay, well, I can just stay home then. That's the other side of that. If they feel like it's going to be that much of a win, some people may say, well, I'm just going to go ahead and stay home.
People say that you were an instrumental part in persuading Biden to stand down. It's pretty clear that he didn't want to do that. Is it true that you were one of the leading drivers for him to stand down? Did you talk to him yourself?
No. Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer, and I'm positive as a result of people in the caucus said, we can't do this. We're going to get slaughtered. And they went to the White House. Their message, like you would expect, was not particularly well received. And I'm quoting publicly. And President Trump tells which has got to be the title of a book, okay? He says that Mike Donilon's polling says we can win. She said, get Donilon on the phone. I mean, if that woman might be the toughest, most courageous person I've ever been around in my life. I mean, I don't love her. I love her, and I'm totally intimidated by her. I just think she's just wonderful human being. But I think that was when, it was the equivalent when Barry Goldwater went down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing I would fault of Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer, they're both friends of mine, what took you so long?
Right.
Not that you did it, but, we should have done it, ifs and buts. But it was clear after that debate. I was in a room with 60 Democratic donors that morning, and it was just brutal.
Listen to who he was around. Not everyday normal people. He was in a room with Democrat donors, just hanging out with the donors, the donor class. And this is who they were getting advice from. This is who they were listening to. The people who are deciding whether or not they want to invest their money into this reelection campaign. That's who he was hanging out with. Think about that.
And you could see that and I said, just call and say, no mas, no more money. That's it. If you do something different, we're not going to fund this disaster. And I think had a part in it. Yes, when Hakeem or people, Schumer would call these donors, wanting money, and they said, I'm not giving you any money. I think that gets people's attention. And I did play a role in that, yes.
I don't always pick the healthiest food up.
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. We're going to jump forward past this because we don't really care about his ads. And I want to get into this part where they talk about whether or not the Democratic Party actually wants to win. I thought this was very telling.
He benefited himself from a few things. One, the assassination attempt, where obviously he was nearly killed. And he reacted in a way that was surprising, I think, even to those who knew him well. The show of defiance, the fight, the arm raised, I think was a very powerful symbol for him, and certainly would have been very, I think, influential in a lot of American minds, even if they didn't like him. They thought, you know what, this guy, he's a fighter. He showed courage literally under fire. Secondly, and I think you may question this, but what they've called the lawfare campaign against Trump, it wasn't so much the more serious stuff against him. It was the fact the first thing they took him to court over was such a pathetically trivial case, Stormy Daniels, and shuffling a bit of paperwork about a one-night stand 18 years before. For that to be the first time any American president had been taken through a criminal court and to then convict him over it, I felt was a catastrophic strategic failure. What was your view of that?
Well, let me take what would happen. You're right. The Butler event, he showed real strength there, and was kind of what he was. So he had that. We had a catastrophic debate. We had a catastrophic nominating process. We nominated a person who actually turned out to be a little bit better candidate than I thought, which, I wouldn't think is going to be that much, who actually did favor taxpayer-funded transition surgery for prisoners. Okay, right. If you ask me to come up with something more unpopular than that, right. I'd say, Piers, you got to give me about 30 seconds. All right.
Yeah. But he didn't say that at the time. See, everybody's coming out now. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but there's a slew of Democrats that are now coming out to criticize Kamala Harris's campaign. I guess enough time has passed and they are given the okay to do that. So it's not just James Carville. None of these people said this during the time when Kamala Harris was running. They said she was running a great campaign. They said she was doing such a great job. Now he's saying what he had a problem with. But you didn't say that at the time.
And we lost by 1.5 points. Right? Anybody else, I could tell you 5 people that would have won this election easily, even under those circumstances. It's like if the country wants something different, tell them you're going to give them something different. I tell them, and it's not disloyal. And people say, well, she's a very loyal person. I agree. Loyal to who?
Right.
If you're loyal to Biden, are you loyal to the party? Are you loyal to the voters? Are you loyal? I mean, when you say someone is loyal, okay, who are you loyal to?
She was loyal to Joe Biden, which is why she didn't want to fully break away from him. But again, at that time, you didn't say this, James Carville. You had nothing. None of this stuff came out during that time. You were fine with what she was doing. You didn't criticize Kamala Harris's campaign at that point in time. Now he's saying if the country tells you that they want something, tell them what they want to hear. Give them what they want. That doesn't mean actually do it, by the way. He doesn't mean actually do it. Just tell them what they want to hear. That's what he's saying, right? But James Carville was one of the people who heavily smeared Bernie Sanders' 2016 and 2020 campaigns. And Bernie Sanders' campaigns was the people telling him what they want. That was what the people wanted. Now, there are other things that should have been added to that. And I said this before. I think that Bernie Sanders should have had a reparations plan. I think he should have had a black agenda. I think he would have done a lot better in South Carolina if he had that. Probably still wouldn't have won South Carolina because I know how James Clyburn can be. And I lived in South Carolina. But you knew that the platform that Kamala Harris was running on was not what the voters wanted, and you supported it anyway. And you told people that she was going to win, and you didn't have these critiques and this criticism of the campaign at that point in time. They really believed that it was just enough to not be Donald Trump. If it was just enough to not be Donald Trump, then Joe Biden wouldn't have been trailing him. And Donald Trump wouldn't have been ahead by like 400 electoral college votes, which is what the internal polls showed if Joe Biden would have stayed in that race. That right there should have told you that the people were wanting something different. This part right here, where they get into Dems would rather lose. This part's important.
For what reason? And, it's in the title. There's a lot of Democrats. I can't believe these people exist, but I can assure you they do. They would rather lose on principle than have to compromise and win an election.
Did you hear that? Let's hear it one more time. I actually believe this part. I think he's being very honest here about this.
And it's not disloyal. And people say, well, she's a very loyal person. I agree. Loyal to who?
Right.
If you're loyal to Biden, are you loyal to the party? Are you loyal to the voters? Are you loyal? I mean, when you say someone is loyal, okay, who are you loyal to? For what reason? And it's in the title. There's a lot of Democrats. I can't believe these people exist, but I can assure you they do. They would rather lose on principle than have to compromise and win an election. And there's a word for these people. It is idiotic.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I've seen.
Everybody take notes. What have we been telling you? Now you have a Democrat strategist saying the same thing we've been telling you for years. It's all coming back to me now. Remember how I told you that they would rather lose to Donald Trump than adopt a platform that is going to uplift working class people, poor people, low income people, than adopt a populist platform than to have a black agenda? What did I tell you? They would rather lose to Donald Trump and hope that Trump would be so horrible that the people would run back over to them again next election. The Democratic Party, since 2016, has been running on, we're not Trump. When you go back and you look at even Biden's campaign in 2020, it's not like Biden had this robust policy platform. He was running on the soul of America, and he was running on, I'm not Donald Trump. Now, what helped Joe Biden at that particular time was the pandemic. Because we had the pandemic and the lockdowns, and yeah, people lost their jobs and people lost their businesses. A lot of small businesses here were done after the pandemic. By the time those PPE loans rolled out, it was already too late for some people. So the economy was a disaster because of the pandemic. And I argue, and I've said this over and over again, had it not been for the pandemic, Donald Trump would have won re-election in 2020. Because prior to the pandemic, the economy was doing really well. And that's what a lot of people care about. That's just a reality. Now, do I think that he would have, I don't know. Do I think it probably could have been close? Probably could have been somewhat close, because I know there were people that had issues with his rhetoric over the immigration, deportations, and the kids in the cages and all that stuff. Funny, though, because those people became very quiet once Biden was in office and there were still kids in cages. I didn't hear them say anything about it under Obama when he built those cages. This goes to show you people all over the damn place. But the reality is, since 2016, the Democratic Party has been running on, we're not Trump. This is why when Kamala Harris was announced as the nominee, what was it, like 30 or 40 days that she didn't even have a platform? They didn't really think they really needed one. They were just running on, they're not Trump. Since 2016, the Democratic Party hasn't planned to do anything for you. That's the part I really want to drive home. They're not really trying to do anything for you. They're not really trying to help you. They're not really trying to make any changes or anything like that. They're simply running on, we're not Trump. It's 2025. It's been almost 10 years. They ain't really offered you a damn thing. And had it not been for the pandemic, you don't get that American Rescue Package, which also didn't go to everybody. Because if you didn't have kids, you didn't get a child tax credit. These are things I want people to really think about. What have they done since 2016? Obama can at least say, I got you guys Obamacare. And there are criticisms about Obamacare. Yes, it does need to be improved. I think we all can agree that it didn't cover everybody. It's not universal health care. I would want universal health care. But the reality is, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic Party ain't done shit for you in a long time. So a lot of people had a Janet Jackson moment. What have you done for me lately? And so that's why some people decided to walk away. That's why some people stayed home. Last time the minimum wage was increased was under Barack Obama. But everybody's got things to say now. Interesting. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.